Hey everyone, I hope you were doing well and enjoying the course. Obviously, it's moving very quickly, and um, you may feel some anxiety about, you know, the pace, especially if you're taking other summer courses. I know I'm feeling a little anxiety about covering everything that I need to cover. So, this but last week and this week are really the heart of what I truly believe and actually know that you really need to know as you move out into the field as practitioners. Um, One of my roles here is being an accreditation specialist for the college, meaning that we have a group, the council, um, formerly called NCAPE, now called CAPE, uh, the Council for the Accreditation of Educator Preparation. It's a national organization, and I've been really involved with that for several years now. And the reason I'm sharing that is that, through that process, we know there are things we need to teach because of that process. There are also things I know we need to teach because of my experiences as a special ed teacher. And much of what we covered last week and what we're going to cover this week are the essence of really what you need to know as you move out into the field. Specifically, learning about the evaluation and identification process and the ins and outs of developing an evaluation report, which as special educators, um, you'll, you, depending on your district, you'll be either more or less involved in that. That's often led by school psychologists, but you'll certainly play a key role in that evaluation process, and in some cases, you'll be leading that. Um, Also, you'll very likely be in charge of developing and maintaining records for all of your students, often referred to as your caseload. But the main part of that is the Individualized Education Program, or the IEP. So we're really going to focus on that this week. Last week I shared with you, it's kind of an old PowerPoint I've been using actually for years, but it's about the special ed process. I know I said it last week, but I thought I'd say in person that you really should know that very well. I know not so long ago, someone who had been in my course actually did not get a job because they couldn't answer in an interview they couldn't answer the difference between what is an evaluation and what is an IEP. I'm of the mind most of the time that if students don't learn something, that's the responsibility of the instructor, and I actually take that to heart. I when I heard that, it actually stung pretty bad. But at the same time, in reviewing how I teach this course, it's a little different online, which is why I'm a little anxious, actually. There's really no excuse why you shouldn't know that, but you do need to, you need to be accountable for yourself and really knowing this information quite well. So you've read in the text, and we'll be reading more about this process. You're looking into the actual Code of Federal Regulations that really spells that out, and what does that process look like. Just a little hint, that's closely aligned with the PowerPoint presentation about the process. And now you're going to begin to get some practice in seeing some things and developing some things. All right. So the other thing I want to address in this video for this week is something most of you have certainly heard of and probably have limited amounts of information on, and that's something called response to intervention. Now you generally, hear it referred to as MTSS, or multi-tier system of supports. And that came about as, really even before RTI was coming about, there was a push for school-wide behavior programs. And, makes good sense. And it's happened over the last decade or so that those programs are being intermingled, because there's lots of similarities. If you look at the triangle, you've seen 1,000 times, more than likely in other courses, you see that it's often academics and behavior. So now what you see, and probably a lot of what your professional development will be about as you get out into teaching positions, is about MTSS. So we're going to focus for this course largely around RTI, and the reason that is that RTI first came about in the law as a way of identifying kids as having a learning disability. Okay, so if you read closely in the CFRs and in the text, you'll see that that's the main function of RTI legally, right? And what may not always be spelled out for you in readings, something I want to share with you, is that the implications for being able to use RTI as an identification process are pretty extreme. More specifically, to use RTI to identify a kid as having a learning disability, you have to have a robust school-wide academic system in place to show that students have received high quality instruction, and have data that shows the student hasn't responded to that high quality instruction. Okay, and then from there you can provide more services to see if the student responds. That's where the concept and the name of response to intervention comes from. Because if a student is receiving multiple tiers, depending on the particular system, of instruction and still not responding, then that can be used as evidence that they have a disability or need special education services. Kind of a side note on where I struggle with a lot of that is where what does that mean for special education? If you can give them the special education before they're formally qualified and they respond to that, then do they truly have a disability? So there are really big questions all wrapped up into this. But for this course, my objective is for you to understand your responsibilities as a special ed teacher, a little bit about where it came from, and but also a really thorough understanding of both the traditional process, which the PowerPoint that I shared last week is mainly about, but also what is RTI. It's something that you need to be well versed in. At this point, it's not really new. I mean, it's not new at all. It's pretty crazy. It makes me feel old. It's actually technically like 12 years old when it showed up in IDA 2004. So obviously it's something that's still getting firmly implemented in schools, but it is not a new concept. So you're going to be reading quite a bit about that. So I'm just going to run down. So if you want to open your Moodle shell, I'm going to run down what I have in store for you. So believe it or not, I mean, it's a little, I know it's hard to keep up with a lot of this. So I kind of feel a little bad giving you things to do every single week, but it's really hard. Being an assessment person, it's hard for me to not do that. But I'm trying to make these expectations realistic. So the first thing you're going to see is the second quiz. Okay, so that's your main assignment for this week. And it is focused on RTI. So to do that quiz, you're going to need to read the chapters, and then read the supplementary information that I have on here. So the objective here is to get you really familiar with RTI, okay, and to see how that goes with the evaluation and identification process, okay. And then the last thing I have on Moodle for this week is a video. It's a YouTube video from it's a mock IEP. I've watched it, and they do a good job. It's really parent focused, which I think is a good thing. And they do a nice job of kind of going over the main pieces of the IEP. Now I'm going to do a little foreshadowing here. So on your final project for the mock CST or the mock evaluation and IEP, that is one thing I need to point out in the syllabus. I've continued to use CST, which is actually an old term, a child study team. It's now referred to technically as an evaluation team. So I don't want to confuse you in your readings, but you're doing a mock evaluation team and IEP team meeting where you will get some practice of doing this process, which you're going to be leading. And I'm going to, especially this being an online course, we've always done this in person, and I think it's a okay replication of the process, but you really need to be focused on, as you go out into your clinical experiences in student teaching, if you're going to be a special ed teacher, to really go out of your way and self-advocate to be on IEP teams and to be in IEP meetings. As I've shared earlier, I'm really focused on high quality clinical programs, and a real challenge for this particular course is giving you real life experiences with IEP teams, and it's such a critical part. Other courses you're taking, no matter what program you're in, it all is going to feed into the evaluation process and the development of the IEP goals. You know, you're learning about evidence-based practices for instruction and behavior. You're learning about doing high quality, valid and reliable assessment. Those are the pieces. You're learning about assistive technology. You're learning about transition. You're learning about family supports. All of those are pieces of the IEP. But what we're moving into now for the course is, you know, the actual process and how all of that is contained, with the ultimate outcome of providing a high quality educational program for kids with disabilities, okay? So, another thing I want to clarify, and so I really hope you watch this video, is that for your final project, I've really been thinking about this, you know, because this is an online course, I gave you the option of doing a group activity in a team, which I'm still fine with which you could video or develop a video, okay? So you can still do that. But I want to give you another option too, because I mean, I've been thinking through this, and just, you know, people getting together in the summer, and, you know, people are all over the place and are back home. If you would like to take this on individually, and probably have to do script development, where you would script out, and watching the video that I've posted would really help with how that would look. But scripting that out, you know, just like kind of a screenplay, would be a decent way to really think through this process, okay? So what I'm going to give you the option of doing is doing that on your own. And if you're going to do that, let me know. But also, instead of me like randomly assigning groups, which is probably how I would do it, if there are people in the class you would like to work with, 4, 5 people, to develop this, whether you do the script or the video option, please self-select those groups. Okay, that'll help me, and I think the outcome will be much better for you. So keep that in mind. Please let me know that if you can by the end of the week. Next week's the last week. I'm going to give you the whole next week. And if you really need it, I would give you more time to do this particular assignment. I would prefer not to give you much more time than that, because then you're getting way into August, and that could be a challenge for all of us. So, but you let me know, okay? So this is a last, I get it's kind of a plea for you to really take these last units very seriously, and really be an engaged student of special education law. There are so many resources out there. I'm trying to do a nice job of providing you the essentials in a streamlined fashion, but that requires you to really do these readings and to really think through these things. So as I always encourage you to get in touch. If you're struggling or you're anxious, send me an email. We'll set up a time to talk. I'm always happy to do that. So thanks a lot, and I will talk to you soon.